Welcome to Scale Tales. These are tales, stories that other founders, entrepreneurs, small business owners, and subject matter experts will share about those magical moments when they scaled an entire business or perhaps a product or service line within a business. This storytelling show is designed with you in mind, the person seeking to do something extraordinary or achieve a transformational breakthrough in the business you own or the business you work for. Our goal is for you to not just be inspired by the words you hear, but to be equipped to take action. And as for me, who am I? Well, I'm Alicia Butler-Pierre. I'm the creator and producer of this show, and I'm the founder of a company called Equilibria Incorporated. Welcome to Scale Tales. I'll be your guide through this episode as we go on a journey with Curt Anderson. He's a proud girl dad and self-proclaimed e-commerce evangelist for manufacturers. He's on a mission to help you reach your e-commerce goals as quickly and painlessly as possible. This is episode 7, how Curt Anderson recovered, grew, and sold an e-commerce floral company. This episode is brought to you by Equilibria Incorporated. Equilibria provides training to assist fast-growing companies in documenting and improving their key processes for maximum operational performance. Visit eqbsystems.com to learn more. That's eqbsystems.com. Running a small business is hard work. There's no doubt about it. But the dynamics of running a family-owned business can be even more challenging. What would you do if no matter how hard you tried, you just can't seem to break through to sustainable profitability? And to make matters worse, your accountant describes you as a train wreck. Would you fold? Or would you rise to the occasion to prove everyone wrong? Here's Curt's story of the time he scaled a wholesale floral business.
Curt Anderson here. I'm coming to you live from little tiny, beautiful, wonderful Lakewood, New York. It's a small lake community in upstate New York. My entrepreneurial journey started in 1990. So I'm an older dude. And I graduated from college in June of 1990 on a Friday. And on that following Monday, I took over a bankrupt, defunct family business. And so at that time, I had a very tight-knit, close family, and my father had a business, and unfortunately, he was ill, and the business became in deep financial trouble. And so 3 days after graduation, I took over that company.
Although Curt had big plans after graduating, he soon found out that life had other plans.
I went to Ohio State University and was going to go off and conquer the world and do all sorts of fun, exciting things, maybe Europe, maybe this, that, the other thing. I was very, very tight with my father, and he asked me for help. And so I decided to help him out with his business. And so I didn't take that class in college of how to recover a bankrupt family business. That class passed me by. So it was literally 21 years old, learning on the fly. It was a wholesale business. And we had all sorts of challenges, struggles. I don't know if I would do it again, but boy, it certainly was fueled by fire, or I don't know, learn on the fly, whatever it was. And so that's how I kickstarted my entrepreneurial journey. Kind of always knew I wanted to get into business, just didn't expect that route. When I got into that wholesale business, boy, we didn't have a lot of options, and it was a struggle, and it was extremely challenging.
Challenging because, as Curt describes, more trouble was on the horizon.
It was a wholesale floral business. We supplied like flower shops, grocery stores, craft stores, that type of thing. Wholesale at that time in the early 90s was just getting pinched in all directions. The supply chain was, all over the board, where importers and manufacturers were starting to sell direct to either retailers, wholesalers were starting to sell direct to consumers. In the early 90s, there was a lot of rolling up. So this is when big brick and mortar stores were really catapulting at that time. So a lot of the mom and pop businesses were really vanishing during the 90s. I had a location, small community, and then I'm near Buffalo. So I had a wholesale business in Buffalo, New York, and another one near where I'm at now. And so the thing is, it was very difficult, very challenging running two operations. At the time, now I'm probably like in my mid 20s. We're starting to get a little bit of momentum. We're getting past some of those, severe financial challenges. But unfortunately, Alicia, I do have to say this. My accountant that I had at the time said that I was the biggest train wreck that she had ever met. So I don't know. So
Curt can laugh about it now, but I'm sure being called a train wreck had to hurt. But lucky for him, his first lifeline was on the way from what at the time seemed an unlikely source.
I take that with a badge of honor. Boy, if you're going to be good at something, you might as well be just great at it. I was great at being a train wreck. And so she shared with me, she goes, I was the biggest train wreck that she had ever encountered. So this is like 1995. And at the time, for those of us that were around, there was this thing that was really starting to pick up, and it was called the internet. And like America Online was doing like their first Super Bowl ads, and they were sending out like these little CDs. If anybody was old enough to remember these CDs that were going out to get you on the internet, and 14.4 modem dial-ups and all this fun thing. And I sat there at that time in 1995. I'm like, man, my accountants tell me I'm a train wreck.
From fail to scale to sell in just under 20 years. How on earth did Curt do it? Well, it turns out he had some other lifelines.
I'm running out of options. I have tried everything to get this business to be successful. I'm going to try this whole e-commerce thing that people are talking about and this whole internet thing. Let's see if this would work. And so put the business online, and we converted it into an e-commerce business. And boy, it took a really long time, but finally this little company called Google came on the scene. And if you were on e-commerce, and if you survived the whole .com bust in 1999, 2000, and you jumped on Google, and then all of a sudden social media was starting to come around, Facebook in 2003, LinkedIn, and YouTube in 2006 or so, Twitter. And we finally eventually had a really nice run with our e-commerce. We converted it into an e-commerce company. There's a magazine called Internet Retailer. We were blessed and fortunate. We made the top 1,000 e-commerce companies 3 years in a row. Amazon was number one. I was way back in like 700-800, but we still made that list. And I was very fortunate beyond that. We scaled the business and ended up selling it. I ended up selling it. And so great experience, great opportunity. It was, and I'm still in e-commerce today. And so that was my run. And it took me about, a good 15, almost 20 years, so it was a big learning process to finally scale up and try to, the vision I had to finally get to that finish line, if you will. I'll share this. Even though I was a train wreck, I learned a ton. So, early entrepreneurs out there, boy, surround yourself with experts that can take you to the next level. And so that was one of the biggest credits. If I'll credit myself to anything, it was like building a phenomenal team. So I started in 1990. I finally built up the business. It was about 2010. Through the 2000s, we started getting traction, turned the company around, and had a really nice run.
With the team in place, just when things were going well with his quote unquote nice run, Curt had an epiphany.
When the words came out of my mouth, "This is how we've always done it," I went home that night, and this is the gospel's truth. I knew I was done. I had been there too long. The day that came out of my mouth, I knew I was out of fresh ideas, fresh energy. Maybe my calling was for a new challenge, whatever it was. The other second thing that I credit myself with is having the wherewithal, and it's extremely humbling because your business is your baby. And when you're raising your child, and all of a sudden your child just doesn't necessarily need you anymore. And it was extremely eye-opening and a powerful experience that not only had the business kind of outgrown me, I felt I finally had the epiphany. I've kind of overstayed my welcome. And so I took on a business partner who I hired her in 2000, and she hands down, and even to this day in my 30 plus career, she hands down was probably the best business decision that I ever made. And it was just magic. We built a wonderful company together.
Eventually, his business partner became the buyer of his family-owned turned e-commerce business.
I hired this person. I was hiring a person, and I had met her a few times, and I can tell you exactly where I was. I was with my wife, and the night before I said, I'm going to hire this person tomorrow. I wasn't hiring her to groom her or a successor or anything like that. It was October of 1999. The internet boom bubble was on the cusp. This was pre 9/11. So, I mean, business was in a better place in 1999. Then a lot of things happened in 2000, like Enron and all those things, 9/11. But, things were just tragic in the country after post 9/11. And this person that I hired, she was just an integral piece. She is a pit bull. She is a phenomenal, incredible, amazing, gifted entrepreneur, gifted businesswoman. We built up the company together. So prior to selling the company, the business was outgrowing me. We're in wholesale distributor, multiple channels that we were selling to, but it's distribution, it's logistics. And so it was just getting beyond my scope, beyond my ability. What we did is we moved the company to a third-party fulfillment center. When we moved the company to a third-party fulfillment center, that removed a huge part of my job, of my tasks. That was the whole operations and getting goods out the door. A lot of that fell on my plate. Again, another humbling moment of like, hey, this is outgrowing me. So either I can continue investing into my company with overhead and fixtures and so on and so forth, or I can align myself with a subject matter expert like a third-party fulfillment center, which I did. And so by taking that off of my plate and putting it onto the experts, now they could ship goods.
At this point, all the elements, that is, people, processes, and tools of business infrastructure, were in place. He had a team and a business partner who balanced his skill set, along with use of the latest e-commerce and internet technologies. By outsourcing logistics processes, Curt freed up his time to focus on promoting and growing the business. In other words, he was now working on his business and not just in it.
Now, all we did is we became guerrilla marketers. Now we could just laser focus on finance, accounting, marketing, social, in 2009, 2010, social media was really starting to blow up. And so, we went right on YouTube. We went right on Twitter, Facebook. I never wanted to be beat out by my competition because I ignored a new technology. And, and with social media, back then, it was free. I'm like, boy, I don't know if this whole Twitter thing, this 140 character thing is going to work, but I don't want to be beat out by my competitors by ignoring social media or these new platforms. So by partnering with that third-party fulfillment center, we put our entire operation, we were just able to explode from there because it was no longer on my plate.
Remember that epiphany Curt mentioned having?
And then eventually on the marketing side, that's when I had my famous, this is how we've always done it. And that was my aha moment. And so that was my transition. So that was kind of that 10-year transition from 2000 to 2010-ish to going to fulfillment center and then finally selling the company.
And when you did, in fact, decide to sell the company to your business partner, how many people were employed by you by that point, Curt? Do you remember?
Yeah. What's funny is, so we were small. There was 15 of us prior to going to the fulfillment center. Here's a fascinating thing. When I went to the fulfillment center, our sales were significant. I had 3 employees. We were just so efficient. So compared to where I was in 1995 when I was that train wreck to my accountant, to 2000. It was just a real nice, well-oiled machine, and sales were, significant. Again, we made that internet retailer list 3 years in a row, and it was just profitable. It was a great business.
A great business that surprisingly scaled down their team from 15 people to 3 to scale up their operations. You might be thinking that scale involves the opposite, growing a team, not downsizing it. But as it turns out, outsourcing to that third-party fulfillment center saved Curt's floral business money.
We'll turn it back to you for a second. Had I known you 17 years ago or so when you started your company, maybe I would have fast forwarded that, but you are 100% correct. I was an old 100 and some year old factory building. We had like 10 to 15,000 square feet, very inefficient. It was, multiple floors, old, pulley elevator type thing. And when we moved to the fulfillment center, we moved to a better location geographically to service product faster to our customers. I think they had like 30,000, 40,000 square feet for our company. And so when we were busy and we were very seasonal, their staff that was working on other projects, well, it converted my fixed expenses into variable expenses. And so, when his staff was busy with my company, that was great. Well, if there were slower times, well, then his folks just shifted over to other companies that they were shipping out. If I do all this fulfillment on my own, this is going to be substantial, and it's going to take those profits out of my pocket. Again, by converting those into variable expenses and partnering with that third-party logistics, company, it just really allowed us to scale, and the company just grew double digits, consistently year in, year out. It was extremely rewarding.
I must ask, did you keep the same accountant who told you were a train wreck? And if so, what was that accountant's response seeing the progress that you made over that 20-year period?
We stayed very, very close, very tight. She is a wonderful, wonderful woman. And and I'll share this. I was at a meeting with her, and it was in between Christmas and New Year's of whatever year. 2001, 2002. And, I was having like a big pity party for myself. So I'm sitting with my accountant, and her name's Marsha. And Marsha's like,
well, fourth quarter was not our best quarter of the year.
And so I'm just, woe is me. I'm like, complaining about this, complaining about that. And she's like,
well, Curt, have you tried this?
So I'm like, no.
Curt, have you tried this?
No.
Well, what about this?
No.
You could save money here. You can make money here.
And I was shooting down every idea that she said to me.
But Marsha wasn't having it. And not being one to mince her words, gave Curt another dose of unforgettable advice.
She's very short in stature, but packs a powerful punch. She scoots up in her chair. She looks at me dead in the eye. She scoots up in her chair and she looks at me and she goes,
Curt, do you watch Dr. Phil?
I'm like, well, yeah, I know Dr. Phil. I don't watch him. She goes,
you know what? I watch Dr. Phil. As a matter of fact, I record Dr. Phil every day. You know why I record Dr. Phil? Because he tells people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. I just gave you 5 suggestions to make more money, and you shut down every one of them. Your problem is you don't want to make money. Ouch.
I thank God for Marsha that she had the courage to call me out. And boy, we turned things around and never looked back from that moment on. So, take that hard advice, align yourself with people that don't tell you what you want to hear. I love that constructive criticism. That's the only way that you can grow.
What does life look like for Curt after selling his business? I wanted to know because it's rare that an entrepreneur in this position doesn't start another business.
After I sold my company, what I found my interest, passion, helping other companies trying to figure out this whole e-commerce thing, in particularly manufacturers. And why manufacturers? Because I'm a digital immigrant. I'm in my 50s, and a lot of manufacturers are older folks like myself. And, e-commerce or digital marketing wasn't really a primary focus. And so they get overwhelmed, or they're, a little bit tech challenge. And every time I would call or meet a new manufacturer, I'd be, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Manufacturer, tell me about your business. And I kept constantly hearing, oh, we're the best kept secret. We're the best kept secret. And I'm like, man, I don't think that's a good marketing strategy. I think we should change that. And so therefore I wrote a book. It's called Stop Being the Best Kept Secret. And it's just kind of a blueprint or a guide of trying to help manufacturers to figure out this whole digital marketing e-commerce thing. I do a lot of webinars, workshops, trainings, working with manufacturers. That's my jam.
Let's give it up for Curt Anderson for sharing his scale tale. If you want more information about him, then click on the resources link in this episode's show notes. There you'll find out how you can buy his book, subscribe to his weekly LinkedIn live show, and participate in his e-commerce events.
Well, Alicia, thank you. I'll tell you, you are an incredible inspiration to me. You mean a ton to me.
And you mean a ton to me too, Curt. Isn't he awesome? Before you leave, here's a recap of some lessons learned, even if you don't own a retail business. Number 1, get help. Help comes in a variety of forms, including a business partner or mentor. Number 2, embrace technology to turn around your operations, business model, and possibly the way you market your business. Number 3, outsource to other companies who have the business infrastructure to support your operations and save you overhead costs. Number 4, convert fixed expenses into variable expenses if it means saving money over time. And 5, and perhaps most importantly, stop being a best kept secret. Thank you for listening. If you learned something valuable from this episode, please leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you're listening. If you want more information about Curt Anderson, then click on the resources link in this episode's show notes at scaleTalesPodcast.com. Again, that's scaleTalesPodcast.com. There you'll find out how you can buy his book, subscribe to his weekly LinkedIn live show, and participate in his e-commerce events. Make sure you subscribe to the show so that you don't miss it. And while you're at it, leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you're listening.